Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Nikita Baliarsingh with us today. She's founder and CIO at Nexus Power, which is a sustainability company. She's Forbes 30 under 30, a TEDx speaker, chefpreneur, change maker, entrepreneur, writer, and a horse rider. So we're going to have fun discussing her background. She's quite uncommon. Today, this podcast is presented to you by podfire.com. If you want to start, monetize, and have great guests on your podcast, you can go to podfire.com. Nikki, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It's a pleasure to interact with you and talk about how my journey has been so far. So, I'm a management graduate. I've also done certain courses in science and technology, which helps me get into battery technology that we work in, which is core to us. Me and my twin sister, we founded Nexus together back in 2020 during the COVID lockdown, and we did our first experiments at home, which gave us a lot of promising results. And with that, we moved forward to register the company, and then it's been like 4 years now. We have got a team size of say about 30, 35, 40 around members. We've been funded, and naturally we've also got a lot of support from the government of India and the government of Odisha, the place that we belong to. So, in a nutshell, Nexus is a battery technology company. We make biodegradable batteries for electric vehicles, for grid storage, for drones, for consumer electronics, and we make these batteries out of crop residue, which is the remains of the agriculture industry. That's broadly about us. And both Nishita and I, we've been together since childhood. We are twin sisters, and we've probably dreamt of, building a company together, and that's how we've also founded, and we are working in it together so far.
Right. So, how were you naturally attracted to entrepreneurship? It seems you were tinkering with your sister a lot naturally, but what led you to start your own business and not go work for, I don't know, Siemens or Tesla for their battery producing facility?
I think ever since we were kids, we were very sure of being entrepreneurs. We never had a doubt, and we were not even looking at gaining some experience with a job first, and then starting our own company. So we would have been what 10, maybe 11 years old, and we were sure that we wanted to have our own company because I think I've seen this around me. My parents had their own business, and growing up as a child, we've seen a lot of business environment around. The school that we were a part of had a lot of focus on business and entrepreneurship, and we used to have these business model competitions throughout our schooling. So I think it was a natural calling. There was probably no brainstorming that went into that, and we were so sure that we just wanted to grow up and build our own company and make sure we make something innovative, something which can really address a lot of concerns in whichever industry. Of course, back when we were 10 years old, we were not sure of what we exactly wanted to do. That I think we shaped up eventually as we grew up. But we were very sure that we always wanted our own company, and we did not ever want to go ahead and work for somebody else. And precisely that is why we actually never even applied for jobs, or we never sat down for placements in colleges as well.
And tell me about the challenges of launching a first serious business of yours during COVID.
Uh, it wasn't planned that way. I would be very honest. And of course, we'd not anticipated COVID. Nobody had, right? We began discussing about this entire idea of making batteries sometime in 2019, early 2019, because we were actually going through a lot of news articles where, lithium batteries were bursting around the world, and certain vehicles were catching fire because of the battery concerns. And along with that, we had this there's plenty of news going around, electric concept cars, electric vehicles, and so on and so forth during that time. And we were very fascinated with vehicles, to be honest. So we wanted to start with making electric vehicles indigenously developed in India, where we eventually landed on realizing that to make electric vehicle a household commodity, you have to first make sure that every component that goes into it is perfect. And one major component is the battery, which has, I wouldn't say a lot of loopholes, a lot of concerns, but certain things that need to be addressed. First, that lithium is scarce. It's not as abundantly available as the demand is for that battery. Secondly, it's a little hazardous for the environment, for the people. It's volatile, it catches fire quickly. And naturally, if you import it, it becomes expensive as well. So, which also increases the price of the electric vehicle as compared to the ICE engine ones. So, I think these are certain concerns that we picked up, and we just wanted to address this all at once. And once we began doing a little bit of research, we realized that we also needed earth abundant material to actually make batteries. And if that material could be biodegradable, I think that was probably like the cherry on the cake. So we started off with the idea of having earth abundant material, which was not as expensive and as volatile as lithium is. But we also managed to have, because it was available in the earth, it's a crop residue, so naturally it's also biodegradable and sustainable, which is an added advantage to the entire product going ahead. And definitely India does have a certain amount of news in the winters of the stubble being burnt, which, once the crop is harvested, they burn the stubble. That's caused a little bit of air pollution as well. So we wanted to cater to that angle while we were doing this research on electric batteries. And that's when, probably it was a very vague thought where we thought that why not just pick up that residue and try and make batteries out of that, because anyway our raw material was biologically synthesized. So we tried that experiment, it worked for us, and that's how the Nexus Circle got complete. And then by the time we actually started discussing on this, and then we started doing our experiments, we had already landed within the COVID lockdown and we were restricted to our houses. So that's how it got founded in COVID. And maybe that was a blessing in disguise, because we had the time enough to do the research, to read as many papers and journals, to study the entrepreneurial environment, the electric vehicle environment, to make sure that all the research that we were doing was getting documented by us, and that we could file our patents and trademarks and everything, because paperwork is something that needs some time, and because we were restricted to our houses, we had that much time to do it. So that's how it worked for us well. And eventually, by the time we got out of that lockdown space, we had all the database and all the documents to go ahead and just build it.
And was it capital intensive to start this business? Like, did you have to borrow a whole lot of money to start it? And when do you think you'd be able to reach profitability?
Um, it see the project is capital intensive, but it isn't something that needs a lot of money to start off with, right? To go ahead and to build the production units, to set up the entire manufacturing plant, that is definitely capital intensive. But we did not start with a lot of money in hand when we began first, because we started off with just the two of us on board to, just do the initial registration paperwork and everything that's necessary to run a company in India. And then we did a lot of online research, because we got restricted to our homes because of the lockdown. So not much of money was required in the beginning, but eventually, as we scaled up, when we started hiring a team, then when we started working in the lab, when we practically started doing the experiments and synthesizing material, that is when naturally, we had to buy the equipment, the raw material, the chemicals that goes into it. And then there's a team, so you take care of their remuneration and compensation, all of that as well. So that adds on to the kind of finances we spent, but we did not start with a lot of money being put into the company as capital. Eventually, as we scaled up, we kept adding the amount of funds that was required, and thankfully then we did get funded as well in 2022. And then, that's how it kept going on and forward, and that's how it is growing.
And why isn't like Tesla doing that? We talked about it last time. Like, why are battery companies not producing sustainable ones?
See, this is not a technology which is readily available in the market. And it's not something which people have read about, or, people have known for plenty of years. Like lithium is an established, proven concept. So you know how to build it and replicate a particular way of manufacturing the battery. That is not the case with the biodegradable batteries that we are proposing to the market. In fact, we ourselves are right now under trials, because we want to build that kind of database to make sure that, when we place it in the market, we have enough results to show to the world. So this is something that needs extensive R&D, and that's something that we are willing to take up, and that's what we are trying to do. And it's not, I would say, not just us. There are a couple of more technologies. I mean, not the kind of material that we are making or the kind of batteries that we are making, but yeah, I mean, research is happening across the world. So I believe if you talk about the bigger companies, say Tesla or Samsung or something like that, I think they would wait and watch the startups and the research guys ensuring that this is a foolproof technology before they take it up in their manufacturing units.
Tell me about, yeah, the GTM strategy of the company. Like, how do you approach potential clients, and in what channel? Is it cold outreach? Is it ads that you're doing? And yeah, who's in charge of that in the company?
See, I broadly take care of it, but I mean, both of us do it collectively as well because we harness the kind of network we already have so far. And it's more like a direct sales channel, I would say. We go ahead uh, dropping direct mails or interacting with people directly without too much of campaigns or too much of hanky panky here and there. And because we are more like a B2B company, we don't have to indulge with consumers directly. So we look at OEMs and grid storage based system operators, and that's how we reach out to them directly. We propose and pitch the product, and since we are into trials right now, we just pitch for pilots with them. So we are not yet making like a full fledged sales pitch, but we are still kind of subtly pushing the product in the market, whether it's through demos, through trials, or pilots, things so on and so forth. So everything that we've done so far has been more like a direct channel. We've gone up to them, we've spoken to them, or sometimes they have reached out to us themselves, and then we've taken it forward.
Right. And what's your strategy to actually get orders? Because it's kind of tricky when you're such a company. I just finished watching the BlackBerry movie, and they were getting screwed over orders. Like they just had sent 10,000 routers to a company and weren't getting paid. So how do you make sure to close the cycle and have these big companies pay you in due time and not put you in the backlog?
I think it's a little early to say, whether the big companies are going to put us in the backlog or not, or what the case is going to be. But we do have certain principles that we follow, and I think we'll stick to that eventually as well. So we make sure kind of the payment cycles roll out. But as I said, we are looking at pilots right now. So the main focus is not on getting the revenues or the payments, but to get the results out of the test data that we do. So that's more important for us right now because we have to build that kind of documentation of the thesis of the test results to make sure that the product is a foolproof, well researched and well developed product. So it's not as important for us to get paid. Having said that, not that we let go of our payments. We obviously do emphasize on a certain ways of making sure that we are still there in the people's mind and they have to pay out whatever is meant to be ours. But the prime focus is to collect data to make sure that the test results come in, and for that we monitor continuously. So it's not like we hand over the product and we get off the mark. We are there and we are continuously monitoring it. We are a part of the entire process, and we keep in touch with the company so far, so it just helps us stay in the mind.
So how do you balance this company with your other passions like speaking and horseback riding? Do you still have time to do that?
I think speaking comes hand in hand with the kind of work we do because that's more or less what we discuss about generally when we are out on events talking about our work. Horseback riding has taken a backseat for some time because it gets difficult to juggle so many things. I mean, other hobbies are kind of hobbies. If we find some time, we take it up. Otherwise, it does happen that in the initial stages of a startup, you tend to push hobbies behind and put your work first. So that's kind of a space that we are also in. But not that I would completely let go of what I have wanted to do or what I've liked to do as my hobbies. I might just take it up eventually once I know that things are more settled and might not need as much of my time as it does right now.
And how's it to run a company with your twin sisters? Are you guys always getting along, or is there like some fighting and bickering?
It's like a mixed bag. It's not that we are along all the time. It's also not the case that we are fighting or bickering throughout. So there are certain things that we disagree on, and then we discuss it out. We make sure we arrive at the right conclusion. I mean, right in the sense, things that favor us and the company. And there are times where we do end up in spaces where the decision doesn't match, but then of course there are board of directors, and then the voting power counts, and that's how things are closed. But working with a twin is, for me, it's really fun, because I'm the younger twin, and I've always been kind of piggybacking with her in school, and I've been the one who's copied her assignments as well. So it's just kind of worked well for me, coming out of school and getting into work with her only. And I'm sure she's also enjoyed working with me, because we've been so used to this kind of a space. We've always been together, we've worked together, we've studied together, and so on and so forth. We've dreamt of building the company together as well. So it just follows one after the other, and you just mutually get together. We don't kind of put in too much effort in working together, is what I would say. So everything we're doing it together, and there are a lot of things where we actually are on the common page. So it doesn't really need too many discussions as well. It's sometimes just thinking the same thing, and even in team meetings, it does happen that both of us speak up the same thing at the same time. So we're actually really connected mentally as well.
Tell me about your total addressable market and if you feel the company would be attractive for VC investments.
See, as far as the total addressable market is concerned, we are currently looking at expanding in, in the South Asian part, in India, and then around Middle East, and then we are looking at reaching the Western markets. That's the kind of idea we have. So for us, we're looking at electric vehicles. We're looking at grid storage, which is the battery energy storage systems, and drones to start off with. So that the addressable market is huge. To put in numbers, it's some $1 billion even now, and it's growing at a CAGR of 42% annually. So that's like a massive growth that we can have, in the coming time. So that, and then this is only in the South Asian region and the Middle East. You go ahead to the African continent, to the western side of the world, and it's even bigger than that. So it's the market is huge. The battery demand is huge, and we are not even looking at replacing lithium altogether. We are only looking at taking care of the massive demand, so that we can just kind of fit in and match the kind of demand with the supply that we have right now, and eventually look at how we can scale up. So definitely the addressable market is really huge. Even if you look at a share of, say, 1% or 2% of the world, we would still be in some $100 billion kind of a space, maybe 3 years or 4 years, 5 years down the line. So definitely a very, very interesting space to invest in. Um, a company that I'm sure would grow eventually quite a lot, and would attract a lot of investments globally and from multiple sectors, because batteries is something you really needed in almost every electronic device that needs power.
How do you use AI to accelerate innovation and run your business?
So we use AI tools to stimulate the research data that we have. So it's like a simple algorithm where, if you run a test for 10 hours or say 20 hours, then you stimulate that data to make sure that, or to present results of something around 50 hours or 60 hours or so. So the AI actually comes in where it calculates the impact that long use of battery can have, and the kind of uh, degradation, or the change in charge discharge cycles that it can have. That's what we really use AI for. But having said that, AI is not directly a part of our work. We don't really focus much, and we don't need too much of AI as well. We use it only to stimulate result, and we use it to cross check with whatever we've arrived at, if it is correlating with the market standards or things like that. That's more or less that we use AI for. Otherwise, it's not much that we put into it, not much that we are really working hard on from our side. We use whatever is available to us, but in the future, if we plan to work on the battery management system, which is the BMS, there probably we might include a lot more of the AIA, which is a part of the plan. But I mean, it's just on the paper right now. We've not even started working on it yet.
Nikki, thank you for showing up today. Where can people find out more about you online?
Yeah, I guess you can just Google about the company Nexus Power. We have a website that's nexuspower.in. You could read more about it there. And shortly on LinkedIn, we have a social media presence as well. If people want to read up more about us or find out how we are doing, understand our progress, I think social media would also come in handy. But definitely, if you just Google about Nexus, you do get a lot of information there as well.
Thank you so much.